Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and as I understood, there is some major statement put out by Pete Hegseth. I think this is how you pronounce the name, I'm not sure. In the Ukraine defense meeting with European countries, particularly the NATO forces. So he put up some very important statements that is going to really alters. It doesn't. He have a very consequential statements put out on the position of the United States under the Trump administration, and it will have a consequence, very serious consequence for the negotiation of the peace settlement between Russia and Ukraine for the Ukraine war, and I think yeah, I saw some of these pointers that is put on Twitter, but I haven't really heard him heard the actual statements. So let's watch this together. I will do my live reaction to this statement by the United States. So let's hear this.
Secretary Hegseth.
Well, good afternoon, friends. Thank you, Secretary Healy, for your leadership, both in hosting and now leading the UDCG.
So I just want to add, this is the most handsome and fit-looking defense secretary of United States I ever seen. Just want to say, typically I think, they should be very old, but this is like the most military-ish guy I ever seen as the defense secretary.
This is my first Ukraine Defense Contact Group, and I'm honored to join all of you today. And I appreciate the opportunity to share President Trump's approach to the war in Ukraine.
Oh, I just want to add one more note. When I was watching all this, when I watch reading, all these statements and everything, I thought about, like how the first term of Trump's presidency, the first presidency of Trump, went, and he ended up sacking a lot of these people that he appointed, and the main thing is because Trump set certain direction. And all these people getting used to what they used to know or what they have seen in previous directors and secretaries, they just went about doing their own thing or saying their own things, which was not what was discussed with Donald Trump, and Trump just sacked them. So it's important to note that this new set of people in this second stint as the US president for Donald Trump, his team, all these people will likely play ball, will likely follow a collective, cohesive foreign policy and political direction that Trump have set, or at least with their with consultation and discussion with all these different people. So that's why Pete Hegseth, as he go on there, he's not going to just say upon what he personally think, but this is a real US position, which is way more aligned with what most country does, where their cabinet will make all this discussion and make a decision.
We are at, as you said, Mr. Secretary, a critical moment. As the war approaches its third anniversary, our message is clear. The bloodshed must stop, and this war must end.
I like the pocket.
President Trump has been clear with the American people and with many of your leaders that stopping the fighting and reaching an enduring peace is a top priority. He intends to end this war by diplomacy and bringing both Russia and Ukraine to the table. And the U.S. Department of Defense will help achieve this goal.
So the key point here is that achieve the peace via diplomacy. This is not the position that was held by the European, or at least under the Biden administration side. The previous was that the peace is going to achieve by defeating Russia on the battlefield via sanctions, making it unviable for Russia to continue the war, and to send Russia this message that Europe is collective, is united, and they will deter Russia's aggression. That means the solution is more towards on the battlefield and on the economic war, not diplomacy, because they have refused multiple times to negotiate or even talk to Putin. If you look at all the different European countries, how many of them actually spoke to Putin? Only Hungary, Slovakia, too. That's all. No one else tries to approach this conflict situation from a diplomatic angle.
We will only end this devastating war and establish a durable peace by coupling allied strength with a realistic assessment of the battlefield. We want, like you, a sovereign and prosperous Ukraine. But we must start by recognizing that returning to Ukraine's pre-2014 borders is an unrealistic objective.
So this is the first breaking, and in fact, it breaks the head of the Ukrainians, because this literally just tell them that Crimea is over. There is no more Crimea. So, because if you talk about 2014, what is 2014 Ukraine? It's basically the loss of Crimea. Donbas was pretty much still under Ukrainian territory. So, to going back to 2014 border means Crimea is gone. So this is the first statement, and I think this is probably a result of the consequence of the negotiation or discussion with Russia, with Putin, and the Putin's administration in Russia. And I think that they have clearly fully established that Crimea is gone. Because 2014 doesn't mean that they lost Donbas. No, because Donbas generally in 2014 is still pretty much under Ukrainian territory. There was a civil war, but it's still Ukraine. So that is very interesting, statement.
Chasing this illusionary goal will only prolong the war and cause more suffering. A durable peace for Ukraine must include robust security guarantees to ensure that the war will not begin again. This must not be Minsk 3.0.
He made a super important point that the Minsk agreement are failures, because it never ended the conflict at all. It is just like, a PR stunt, and everybody says ceasefire and then they continue to fight. And I think this is a very good point from the United States, that this is not going to be a Minsk 3.0.
That said, the United States does not believe that NATO membership for Ukraine is a realistic outcome of a negotiated settlement.
Did I hear wrong? Let's hear it again.
The United States does not believe that NATO membership for Ukraine is a realistic outcome of a negotiated settlement.
And if you guys have been following the war right from the beginning, you'll probably know that the entire war largely started because NATO wanted Ukraine to be allowed to be inside NATO. Maybe some of you guys never followed the pre-war diplomacy on geopolitics. Russia actually sent a letter directly to Biden and asked them to unequivocally, yeah, suddenly I can pronounce it. What the hell? And to state that they will never admit Ukraine into NATO, and that was at a time where Russia has already troops having military exercise all around Ukraine. There's all this build up of troops. There was all these rumors of war, and that was the ultimatum. And in fact, that was stated clearly by Russia that is the ultimatum. And they did not send it to the Europeans, nor to the Ukrainians. They sent it to Biden because Russia clearly understand that the entire Western Hemisphere nonsense, NATO, whatever, is all dictated and led by the United States. Anyone else speeches is pointless. Anyone else division is pointless to Russia. What they want is a guarantee from United States. And Biden's reply to it was that Ukraine have their own rights, and this is their sovereign right to decide their foreign policy. That was their answer, and that basically started the ball rolling on the Russian side to prepare for war. and it was confirmed to the Russians that they need to invade into Ukraine, because a few days before that, at the Munich Security Conference, Zelensky basically stated to everyone that if the Europeans cannot guarantee their security against Russia, then it would mean that the entire agreement that Ukraine should not have nuclear weapon, I think it's the best memorandum. What's wrong with me? I cannot pronounce all this memorandum, or whatever. You know what I say? The memo, Budapest memo. If I'm not wrong, that's the agreement that no is void. That basically is telling Russia that Ukraine may pursue nuclear weapons, and that is the ultimate convincing factor for Putin to just go in. I think even for Putin, he was not entirely sure, if they should go in, because it's such a huge decision. Russia is not prepared for war. They have a huge military, but they don't have a huge standing army that is meant for war. The army was just largely for defense purposes. So, to go on an offensive war, they don't have what they have right now today. So it was a huge decision, and it all started from this point where NATO wanted Ukraine to be able to join NATO, and now United States just flipped, because the administration flipped, and then now they flipped whatever they're saying and say that no, Ukraine is not allowed to join NATO. What are you talking about? It's realistic, right? They're not allowed to join. It's like probably in my opinion, 1 million people died for nothing. Which is the same point I always said right from the beginning. This war is a stupid war, an avoidable war, and there is no reason for this war to have started. I've said this right at the beginning, before Trump even said anything about, this is an avoidable war, that, if he was a president, this war would not have happened. Like, I have said this right at the beginning, this is a stupid war, but it is what it is.
Instead, any security guarantee must be backed by capable European and non-European troops. If these troops are deployed as peacekeepers to Ukraine at any point, they should be deployed as part of a non-NATO mission, and they should not be covered under Article 5. There also must be robust international oversight of the line of contact. To be clear, as part of any security guarantee, there will not be U.S. troops deployed to Ukraine.
So this is yet another very, very important point, that United States will not commit American troops into Ukraine. This is something that Donald Trump had promised in his politics, in his campaign, that they will not send U.S. soldiers into harm's way unnecessarily. And this clearly shows that Ukraine is not an American national interest thing. They don't really care. It's not an American issue, and to them, this is a European issue. And also on top of that, the United States do not support Ukraine under the NATO mission. This is not a NATO issue, so it cannot be triggered under Article 5. It cannot be triggered in a way that NATO will go in as peacekeeper like Kosovo. This is not going to be a NATO thing. It's not going to be an American thing, which means that the peacekeeping is likely to be under the United Nations ambit. And that is only if there is peacekeepers going to be entering Ukraine. So another devastating statement for the Ukrainians, and I clearly can feel the emotional damage, in their feet, in their heart. But yeah.
To further enable effective diplomacy and drive down energy prices that fund the Russian war machine, President Trump is unleashing American energy production and encouraging other nations to do the same. Lower energy prices, coupled with more effective enforcement of energy sanctions, will help bring Russia to the table. So which means Trump is going to go on with the economic war with Russia, and but the way to do it is actually to ramp up energy production, to reduce oil price,
And of course, this is a bit self-serving because that's what America wanted for themselves, to lower energy price so that they can, reduce inflation. And but this one is by extension hoping to, reduce Russia's income. I think it works. It will work in a way. I don't think it will stop the war. It will just put pressure on Russian economy. Yeah, but that's about it. Energy price go up and down. There is long periods of time where the energy price is not that high, and Russia still survived. So clearly not good news for the OPEC members, particularly Saudi Arabia and whatnot. So the Arab states are now on notice.
Safeguarding European security must be an imperative for European members of NATO. As part of this, Europe must provide the overwhelming share of future lethal and non-lethal aid to Ukraine.
So, first thing first is not that Europeans have to provide the majority of the support, but the point is that European countries can still continue to provide lethal and non-lethal military aid. So that means currently Trump's perspective, or the United States perspective, is that the war is likely to continue. So the war is not ending yet, and they are being now very realistic about it. So the war, it will continue. The war will not end in 24 hours as per what Trump has promised. This is clearly not going to happen, especially if you follow DPA. You know that Russia is largely winning the war, and which means that they're not going to stop just because Donald Trump made the phone call. So the war will continue, and but United States have give its green light that Europe can continue to send lethal and non-lethal aid to Ukraine. But they have to be the one overwhelmingly be the one supporting Ukraine, not United States.
Members of this contact group must meet the moment. This means donating more ammunition and equipment, leveraging comparative advantages, expanding your defense industrial base, and importantly, leveling with your citizens about the threat facing Europe.
So, so this is very funny because United States is putting tremendous economic pressure on Europe because of the revival, the Make America Great Again thingy, that Donald Trump is doing in the United States. This is going to weaken Europe economically, but yet at the same time they are asking Europe to be upsizing their war economy, their war industry, so that they can provide Ukraine with whatever Ukraine needs. So I mean, this is not exactly a bad thing for Ukraine, because that United States is now putting pressure on Europe to do more for Ukraine. But at the same time, this is super bad news for Europe because they are already maxed out. Like they have expensive social security spending, welfare spending, and tremendous bureaucracy, tremendous overhead. And then now, and which is why they are always very lukewarm in the way how they support Ukraine, and they're acting super slowly. And then now, basically, United States is going to put pressure on Europe to be the one, providing whatever Ukraine needed.
Part of this is speaking frankly with your people about how this threat can only be met by spending more on defense.
Ta-da! Then this is the Europeans' narrative coming back to bite themselves, because it is the Europeans that constantly say that Russia is about to invade Europe and NATO. But at the same time, Europe also refused to spend more on their military. In fact, they hardly increased by much. And then now, United States is telling Europe to please, that your citizens will understand, because you guys say that Russia is a massive threat. So everybody should pay for it. The expansion of the military and the military industrial complex to meet the demands of being able to fight with Russia. So that's basically the message. So yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the European leaders are supposed to feel happy or not, or feel like shit, because United States is supporting their narrative, but the United States is also forcing them to deal with this narrative in actual actions. So quite painful, I would say.
2% is not enough.
Yes.
President Trump has called for 5%.
Boom, 5%. 5%. They can't even meet 2%. How they're going to meet 5% is beyond me. So, yeah, but that is clearly the number they needed in order to actually deal with Russia, because Russia is definitely spending a lot more. I'm guessing around 3 to 4%. I'm just my estimate, just my random guess. And the things is that in terms of parity purchasing power, Russia can do a lot more with every dollar spent in Europe. So Europe going to 5% makes sense because they really need to spend a lot of money just to simply meet what the Russians can do. So,
and I agree.
And I agree
Increasing
too.
your commitment to your own security is a down payment for the future. A down payment, as you said, Mr. Secretary, of peace through strength. We're also here today to directly and unambiguously express that stark strategic realities prevent the United States of America from being primarily focused on the security of Europe. The United States faces consequential threats to our homeland. We must and we are focusing on security of our own borders.
So the United States is now saying that European issues is for Europeans. The Americans have their own border problem. They will deal their own. They need to deal with their own border problem as a priority over European problems. And yeah, which I totally agree. Right? It makes perfect sense. So
we also face a peer competitor in the communist Chinese, with the capability and intent to threaten our homeland and core national interests in the Indo-Pacific. The U.S. is prioritizing deterring war with China in the Pacific, recognizing the reality of scarcity and making the resourcing trade-offs to ensure deterrence does not fail. So
the whole point is that United States need to step up in Asia Pacific, because the rise of China right now, in realistic term, China is going to out-combat United States in Asia Pacific. That is actually a reality. United States do not have the military power right now to really go on par with China or actually overwhelm China. It's not possible right now. So in terms of the nearest front line in Asia Pacific, China is actually going to have an absolute advantage. Even with the entire ASEAN, India plus Japan, South Korea, it may not actually be enough to defeat the Chinese. Maybe they can go on, they can draw, they can have a stalemate, but they can't defeat. So, United States is being very clear right now. And the reality is that Europe right now is so weak militarily that Russia actually do not fear Europe per se. Which is why, whatever United States right now is saying to the Europeans is real. That they need to build up the deterrence to really make Russia feel like, NATO is a massive, is a massive threat if the Russians try to, attack into NATO countries. Right now, it doesn't feel like it. I mean, Russia will not try because ultimately, they're still very close, but NATO does not have a clear advantage right now, militarily, against Russia anymore, without United States. So, and the key point that is a geostrategic problem, a wider macro problem, is because if there is a massive NATO-Russia war, it will definitely rope into the Chinese, and China plus Russia against US plus Europe will lose the war. That is now the main thing. So because Europeans are too weak, Europeans are now behaving like Italy in World War II. It is a super unreliable ally that loses all their wars, and then Nazi Germany would have to divert its forces to try to support Italy. in North Africa. Europe is currently that kind of situation. They are the kind of a weight that the United States cannot possibly have an ally that is so weak. So which is why what the 5% makes perfect sense. And honestly, the stronger the military, the safer the world will be. That's the truth. Because it doesn't mean that you have a strong military, you have to send your military out and bully other countries. You don't have to. It's a strong deterrence. Just like Singapore have one of the most powerful military in the world, we don't use our military to bully other countries. But it's a strong, massive deterrence that keep all negotiations on the table rather than in the battlefield, or or for any of our neighbors to start to use their military to threaten us in the negotiations. So with a super overwhelming, powerful military, then everybody will just be nice, So that's the same point that United States want for Europe. Spend 5%, build up a super powerful military, and then Russia will just talk on the table rather than use their military force to threaten. And United States have the same exact problem with China right now. China have built up their military way too much to the point where United States can no longer talk to China purely on the table basis. Like China will make moves. They do military exercise around Taiwan. And they are probing the lines in along the Japan-controlled sea leading to the Pacific Ocean. So these are all real problems. Not saying that they must go to war, but this is just basic due diligence for every country.
Cannot fail for all of our sakes. As the United States prioritizes its attention to these threats, European allies must lead from the front.
So again, just to emphasize, as United States have to face direct threats to United States in the borders, in their own region of sphere of influence in the Americas, where Chinese is building up a lot of influence operation, buying up a lot of place or investing a lot to build up this anti-United States coalition, or at least sentiment in the Americas, and then in the Asia Pacific as well, where China military is now becoming too strong. United States cannot divert its attention on Russia, and Europe must build up their military to deal with Russia, so that then they are true allies. If not, then they are just all vassals. So, and it's a perfect point. It's a real point. I think it makes perfect sense. Personally, I strongly support European countries to have a much more powerful military to really face down Russia, and so that Russia will not think too much about using their military to conduct diplomacy. But of course, whatever diplomacy that the Europeans have is also like shit. They have horrible foreign policies. When you have a very strong military, you can have proper diplomacy. The problem now is they're just too weak.
Together, we can establish a division of labor that maximizes our comparative advantages in Europe and Pacific, respectively.
Exactly as what I just said.
In my first weeks as Secretary of Defense, under President Trump's leadership, we've seen promising signs that Europe sees this threat, understands what needs to be done, and is stepping up to the task. For example, Sweden recently announced its largest ever assistance package. We applaud them for committing $1.2 billion in ammunition and other needed material. Poland is spending 5% of GDP on defense already, which is a model for the continent.
Yeah. So this about Poland. So anyway, congrats Sweden. Good job. Because Sweden is one of the the economy I think is still alright. I think Poland has started militarizing from the beginning of the Ukraine war. And they are now spending, according to what they say, 5%. So Poland is leading the way, and clearly Poland feel the threat the most because they're right next to Ukraine. And in fact, Poland, I believe I read somewhere that Poland even felt that there is threat from Ukraine post-war, because the gangs or mafias or whatever may have possession to very powerful military weapons. So and then that of course pissed off Ukraine. They actually rebuked it, but that's the truth. and I would say not even just gangs. It could be also Ukraine as a state might become a threat to Poland, because they would have the most advanced or the most war better hardened military in Europe, and they may also use military as a diplomatic tool. Which is why Poland has been building up. They're buying ridiculous amount of military equipment, and if all of these military equipments all come into Poland will have an outsized negotiating power even against Germany and other European countries. So just saying.
And 14 other countries are co-leading capability coalitions. These groups are doing great work to coordinate Europe's contributions of legal assistance across 8 key capability areas. These are first steps. More must still be done. We ask each of your countries to step up on fulfilling the commitments that you have made. And we challenge your countries and your citizens to double down and recommit yourselves not only to Ukraine's immediate security needs, but to Europe's long-term defense and deterrence goals.
True.
Our transatlantic alliance has endured for decades, and we fully expect that it will be sustained for generations to come. But this won't just happen.
Yep.
It will require our European allies to step into the arena
will not drop down from the
and
sky.
take ownership of conventional security on the continent.
Yeah, this is actually really bizarre, like it constantly feel like Europe is not doing enough. And they have been underspending for a long time. So they clearly don't believe in that Russia is a threat. No, because if you really believe Russia is a threat, you do what Poland has done. You do maybe what the Baltics have done. Although the Baltics have given up everything, I'm not sure how will they survive in a war. They're probably depending on the Americans or the Europeans to save them. But yeah, Poland is clearly showing what is it like. The rest of Europe doesn't feel like Russia is a threat. And personally, my assessment is that Russia is not really a threat to Europe. Not in the way they think. I don't think Russia needs to just invade Europe. For what? Why rule over people that don't want to be under your rule? So
the United States remains committed to the NATO alliance and to the defense partnership with Europe. Full stop.
Full stop.
But the United States will no longer tolerate an imbalanced relationship which encourages dependency. Rather, our relationship will prioritize empowering Europe to own responsibility for its own security.
Yeah, that's literally what I just said. Basically, the United States is endorsing whatever Europe is doing, but ask Europe to do it more, to do it themselves more. They don't expect United States to come in and do it for them.
Honesty will be our policy going forward, but only in the spirit of solidarity. President Trump.
Honesty is the way going forward, but only if there is solidarity. So they will not be honest if they don't have solidarity. I'm not sure, but that doesn't matter. They will be honest, is what they say.
Looks forward to working together, to continuing this frank discussion amongst friends, and to achieve peace through strength together. Thank you.
Slava Ukraini. So that's basically it. And you can see that, no one is happy. Everybody's like, oh shit. All have oh shit face. So, and Ukraine is like, he's dead inside face. So anyway, yep, that's it. So this is my live reaction basically to the statement by United States Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on this Ukraine defense meeting. So breaking information, shocking information, good news and bad news all at the same time. So, but generally for Ukraine, it's also a mixed. It's a mixed news. It's not sure exactly it's a good or bad news. Sounds really mixed. if you ask me. So anyway, that's it. So thank you for watching. Press the like button, subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments, and also do check out the DPA forum and the DPA chat, the DPA Discord, all in the links in the description below. So join the community, talk with like-minded people, then discuss all these things. And if you really like to discuss this a lot, if you are really obsessed with this kind of thing, consider watching DPA Open Mic. Join the community of DPA Open Mic. We can discuss in live chat as well as coming on the channel on DPA Open Mic. Then discuss face to face, because only Giga Chat show their face. So anyway, thank you for watching. Press the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next update.